Eid al-Adha, Wikipedia Audio. Eid al-Adha, also called the Sacrifice Feast, is the second of two Islamic holidays celebrated worldwide each year, and considered the holier of the two. It honors the willingness of Ibrahim to sacrifice his son, as an act of obedience to God's command. Before Abraham sacrificed his son, God provided a male goat to sacrifice instead. In commemoration of this, an animal is sacrificed and divided into three parts. 1/3 of the share is given to the poor and needy, another third is given to relatives, friends, and neighbors, and the remaining third is retained by the family. In the Islamic lunar calendar, Eid al-Adha falls on the 10th day of Dhu al-Hijjah. In the international calendar, the dates vary from year to year, drifting approximately 11 days earlier each year. Eid al-Adha is the latter of the two Eid holidays, the former being Eid al-Fitr. The word Eid appears once in Al-Ma'idah, the 5th surah of the Quran, with the meaning solemn festival. Other names. Like Eid al-Fitr, Eid al-Adha begins with a prayer of 2 rakats followed by a sermon. Eid al-Adha celebrations start after the descent of the Hujjaj, the pilgrims performing the Hajj, from Mount Arafat, a hill east of Mecca. Eid sacrifice may take place until sunset on the 13th day of Dhu al-Hijjah. The days of Eid have been singled out in the Hadith as days of remembrance and considered the holiest days in the Islamic calendar. The Takbir of Tashriq are from the Maghrib prayer of the 29th of Dhul Qa'dah up to the Maghrib prayer of the 13th of Dhu al-Hijjah. The Arabic term sacrifice feast, Eidlaa. Ayna/Eidlaa. Ayna is borrowed into Indo-Aryan languages such as Urdu, Hindi, Assamese, Bengali, Gujarati, and Austronesian languages such as Malay and Indonesian. Another Arabic word for sacrifice is qurbani. The Semitic root qrb means to be close to someone/something. Other words from the root include karov, close, and karovim, relatives. The senses of root meaning to offer suggest that the act of offering brings one closer to the receiver of the offering. The same stem is found in Hebrew and, for example, in the Akkadian language noun akrib, to act of offering. Eid al-Kabir, an Arabic term meaning the greater Eid, is used in Yemen, Syria, and North Africa. The term was borrowed directly into French as Aad el-Kabir. Translations of Big Eid or Greater Eid are used in Pashto, Kashmiri, Urdu, and Hindi, Bengali, Tamil and Malayalam. Albanian, however, uses Bajram Ivoga El or the Lesser Eid as an alternative reference to Eid al-Adha. The festival is also called Bakra Eid in Urdu and Hindi language, stemming from the Arabic word al-Bakara meaning the cow, although some have attributed it to the Urdu and Hindi word bakra, meaning goat, because of the tradition of sacrificing a goat in South Asia on this festival. This term is also borrowed into other Indian languages, such as Tamil Bakra Ad Peru Nal. In Uzbekistan it is called Kurban Hayati. In Bangladesh this Eid is called Aa superscript 2 Oea superscript 1 A3/4 and Aa degree Aa 3/4 Aa degree Aa in Bengali. Literary meaning of Kurbanir Id is the festival of sacrifice. Eid al-Adha is loan word from Arabic. Aa degree Aa is sometimes called in Old Dhaka, which means the festival of goat. This word is come from Hindustani. It is called Ee in Silhidi, which means the festival of goat too. Some names refer to the fact that the holiday occurs after the culmination of the annual Hajj. Such names are used in Malaysian and Indonesian Lebaran Haji, Lebaran Kaji. When this was not yet an official feast in the Philippines, this was how it was called in Mindanao and other predominantly Muslim areas. When it became a legal holiday in 2009, it became officially known as Eid al-Adha. Some also reference it with local language names like Kapis Tayan ng Pagsay Sakripisyo in Tagalog. In Tamil it is called. It is also known as Eid al-Bakara in Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and in the Middle East, as Eid al-Kurban in Iran, Kurban Bayrama plus or minus in Turkey, Bakara Eid in Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Trinidad, Eid el-Kabir in Morocco, Faskata Moktard in the Berber language of Jerba, Eid al-Adha or Kurban in Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia and the Philippines, Kurbani Eid in Bangladesh, Bakri Eid in parts of Pakistan and India and Tabaski or Tobaski in Senegal and West Africa, Babar Salah in Hausa language and Sayada Goraka in Somali. Eid al-Adha has had other names outside the Muslim world. The name is often simply translated into the local language, such as English Feast of the Sacrifice, German Opferfest, Dutch Offerfeest, Romanian Srbtoria Sacrificiului, and Hungarian El 281 In Spanish it is known as Fiesta del Cordero or Fiesta del Borrego. According to Islamic tradition, the valley of Mecca was a dry, rocky, and uninhabited place. God instructed Abraham to bring Hagar, his Arabian wife, and Ishmael to Arabia from the land of Canaan. Origin. As Abraham was preparing for his return journey back to Canaan, Hagar asked him, "Did God order you to leave us here? Or are you leaving us here to die?" Abraham did not even look back. He just nodded, afraid that he would be too sad and that he would disobey God. Hagar said, "Then God will not waste us, you can go." Though Abraham had left a large quantity of food and water with Hagar and Ishmael, the supplies quickly ran out, and within a few days the two began to feel the pangs of hunger and dehydration. Hagar ran up and down between two hills, Safa and Marwa, 7 times, in her desperate quest for water. Exhausted, she finally collapsed beside her baby Ishmael and prayed to God for deliverance. Miraculously, a spring of water gushed forth from the earth at the feet of baby Ishmael. Other accounts have the angel Jibra'il striking the earth and causing the spring to flow in abundance. With this secure water supply, known as the Zamzam well, they were not only able to provide for their own needs, but were also able to trade water with passing nomads for food and supplies. Years later, Abraham was instructed by God to return from Canaan to build a place of worship adjacent to Hagar's well. Abraham and Ishmael constructed a stone and mortar structure known as the Kaaba which was to be the gathering place for all who wished to strengthen their faith in God. As the years passed, Ishmael was blessed with nubuwwah and gave the nomads of the desert his message of submission to God. After many centuries, Mecca became a thriving desert city and a major center for trade, thanks to its reliable water source, the Zamzam well. One of the main trials of Abraham's life was to face the command of God to sacrifice his dearest possession, his son. The son is not named in the Quran, but Muslims believe it to be Ishmael, though it is mentioned as Isaac in the Bible. Upon hearing this command, Abraham prepared to submit to will of God. During this preparation, Shaitan tempted Abraham and his family by trying to dissuade them from carrying out God's commandment, and Abraham drove Satan away by throwing pebbles at him. In commemoration of their rejection of Satan, stones are thrown at symbolic pillars during the stoning of the devil during Hajj rites. When Abraham attempted to cut his throat, he was astonished to see that his son was unharmed, and instead, he found a ram which was slaughtered. Abraham had passed the test by his willingness to carry out God's command. This story is known as the Akda in Judaism and originates in the Torah, the first book of Moses. The Quran refers to the Akda as follows. 100 O my Lord! Grant me a righteous, 101. So we gave him the good news of a boy ready to suffer and forbear, 102. Then, when reached work with him, he said, O my son! I see in vision that I offer thee in sacrifice, now see what is thy view. Said, O my father! Do as thou art commanded, thou will find me, if Allah so wills. One practicing patience and constancy, 103. So when they had both submitted their wills, and he had laid him prostrate on his forehead, 104. We called out to him, O Abraham, 105. Thou hast already fulfilled the vision. Thus indeed do we reward those who do right, 106. For this was obviously a trial. 107. And we ransomed him with a momentous sacrifice, 108. And we left for him among generations in later times, 109. Peace and salutation to Abraham, 110. Thus indeed do we reward those who do right, 111. For he was one of our believing servants, 112. And we gave him the good news of Isaac, a prophet, one of the righteous. Eid prayers. Who must attend? Abraham had shown that his love for God superseded all others, that he would lay down his own life or the lives of those dearest to him in submission to God's command. Muslims commemorate this ultimate act of sacrifice every year during Eid al-Adha. While Abraham was prepared to make an ultimate sacrifice, God ultimately prevents the sacrifice, additionally signifying that one should never sacrifice a human life, especially not in the name of God. When is it performed? The Sunnah of preparation. Rites of the Eid prayers. The Alhamdu and other rites. Traditions and practices. Devotees offer the Eid al-Adha prayers at the mosque. According to some fiqh, the Eid al-Adha prayer is performed any time after the sun completely rises up to just before the entering of Zuhr time, on the 10th of Dhu al-Hijjah. In the event of a force majeure, the prayer may be delayed to the 11th of Dhu al-Hijjah and then to the 12th of Dhu al-Hijjah. Eid al-Adha in the Gregorian calendar. In keeping with the Sunnah of Muhammad, Muslims are encouraged to prepare themselves for the occasion of Eid. Below is a list of things Muslims are recommended to do in preparation for the Eid al-Adha festival. The scholars differed concerning the ruling on Eid prayers. There are three scholarly points of view. Eid prayers must be offered in congregation. Participation of women in the prayer congregation varies from community to community. It consists of 2 rakats with 7 takbers in the first raka'ah and 5 takbers in the second raka'ah. For Sunni Muslims, Salat al-Eid differs from the 5 daily canonical prayers in that no adhan or iqamah is pronounced for the 2 Eid prayers. The Salat is then followed by the khutbah, or sermon, by the Imam. At the conclusion of the prayers and sermon, Muslims embrace and exchange greetings with one another, give gifts and visit one another. Many Muslims also take this opportunity to invite their non-Muslim friends, neighbors, co-workers, and classmates to their Eid festivities to better acquaint them about Islam and Muslim culture. The Alhamdu is recited from the dawn of the 9th of Dhu al-Hijjah to the 13th, and consists of Allah is the greatest, Allah is the greatest, there is no God but Allah, Allah is greatest, Allah is greatest, and to Allah goes all praise. Multiple variations of this recitation exist across the Muslim world. Men, women, and children are expected to dress in their finest clothing to perform Eid prayer in a large congregation in an open waqf field called Eidgah or mosque. Affluent Muslims who can afford it sacrifice their best halal domestic animals as a symbol of Abraham's willingness to sacrifice his only son. The sacrificed animals, called Ayanaya, known also by the Perso-Arabic term kurba ni, have to meet certain age and quality standards or else the animal is considered an unacceptable sacrifice. In Pakistan alone nearly 10 million animals are slaughtered on Eid days costing over $2.0 billion. The meat from the sacrificed animal is preferred to be divided into 3 parts. The family retains 1/3 of the share, another third is given to relatives, friends, and neighbors, and the remaining third is given to the poor and needy. Though the division is purely optional wherein either all the meat may be kept with oneself or may be given away to poor or needy, the preferred method as per Sunnah of Muhammad is dividing it in 3 parts. Notes: the regular charitable practices of the Muslim community are demonstrated during Eid al-Adha by concerted efforts to see that no impoverished person is left without an opportunity to partake in the sacrificial meal during these days. Hajj is also performed in Saudi Arabia before Eid al-Adha and millions of Muslims perform Hajj. On the event of Hajj, lots of Muslims slaughter animals and divide a major part of the meat for poor people. During Eid al-Adha, distributing meat amongst the people, chanting the takbir out loud before the Eid prayers on the first day and after prayers throughout the 4 days of Eid, are considered essential parts of this important Islamic festival. In some countries, families that do not own livestock can make a contribution to a charity that will provide meat to those who are in need. While Eid al-Adha is always on the same day of the Islamic calendar, the date on the Gregorian calendar varies from year to year since the Islamic calendar is a lunar calendar and the Gregorian calendar is a solar calendar. The lunar calendar is approximately 11 days shorter than the solar calendar. Each year, Eid al-Adha falls on one of about 2 to 4 different Gregorian dates in different parts of the world, because the boundary of crescent visibility is different from the international date line. The following list shows the official dates of Eid al-Adha for Saudi Arabia as announced by the Supreme Judicial Council. Future dates are estimated according to the al-Qura calendar of Saudi Arabia. The al-Qura is just a guide for planning purposes and not the absolute determinant or fixer of dates. Confirmations of actual dates by moon sighting are applied on the 29th day of the lunar month prior to Dhu al-Hijjah to announce the specific dates for both Hajj rituals and the subsequent Eid festival. The 3 days after the listed date are also part of the festival. The time before the listed date the pilgrims visit the Mount Arafat and descend from it after sunrise of the listed day. In many countries, the start of any lunar Hijri month varies based on the observation of new moon by local religious authorities, so the exact day of celebration varies by locality. The sun is not named in the Quran, but most modern Muslims adhere to the view that it was Ismail. Sayings attributed to Muhammad and Islamic commentaries differ on whether Abraham's older son Ishmael, or his younger son, Ishaq, was asked to be sacrificed in the vision. A chain of narration from Yunus b. Abd al-Allah attributed to Abdallah b. Abbas, the Prophet, in a conversation in which he said, "Then we ransomed him with a tremendous victim." And he also said, "He is Isaac." The Sunni commentary Tafsir Ibn Kathir, Ibn Jarir narrated that Ibn Abbas said, "The one who was ransomed was Ismail, peace be upon him." The Jews claimed that it was Ishaq. Federal holidays, state holidays, religious holidays, week-long holidays, month-long holidays, Title 36 observances and ceremonies. Bold indicates major holidays commonly celebrated in the United States, which often represent the major celebrations of the month.